In this video, I'm going to go over several drills to help you improve your weak foot shooting, starting with the basics and working towards full power. I'm also going to share some of the most common mistakes I see and how you can recognize and fix them. For the first drill, let's start with a standstill. Start with low power and just focus on hitting the ball in the center. Then gradually build up speed and try to get that acceleration or pop right before you make contact with the ball. Now I want you to focus on one more thing, that is, don't just kick the ball, drive through the ball. Now I want to practice with one step. For this drill, you're going to push off your kicking leg, and we really want to focus on bracing on the right leg when you plant. Now watch as I do this again. Your plant knee should be bent a little bit, and then straighten as you follow through. Okay, moving on, let's add another step. Now you want to push off the right leg first, and then take a bigger step with the left before kicking. And again, remember to follow through all the way. Alright, now you can try 3 steps or a full run-up. It's fine to take smaller, slower steps at the beginning if you want, but you want the last step to be a big one. That's where you're going to generate a lot of the power. Make sure to keep your eyes on the ball until you finish the whole kicking motion. You can land on your kicking foot or take a little hop on the plant foot. So far we've just been working on a dead ball. Now we're going to add some movement. For this, you're going to want to plant slightly in front of the ball so the ball catches up to you by the time you strike it. This is particularly true on a quick AG field like this one here. And if you're on a slower field, you will need to adjust a little. Okay, let's take a closer look at where you should be planting. Your foot should be somewhere between here and here. That's going to depend on your individual height or leg length and the type of field, like I mentioned earlier. You don't want it to be too far behind the ball, though. Now, if you are trying to shoot lower, you want to plant a little more forward, and if you want to shoot higher, your foot should be back a little bit more. For myself, I'm planting about 8 inches to the side. You don't want to be right next to the ball or too far away. Again, this is going to depend on your dimensions, so you might want to play around with it and see what works for you. Now let's cover some of the most common mistakes I see when people shoot with their weak foot. The first one is not bending the knee enough during the windup. You should be bending more than 90 degrees if you watch yourself in slow motion. This may make the timing harder at first, but the more you bend, the more power you'll get from your shot. Go and watch Ronaldo's goal against Porto. You'll see his heel is almost touching his butt when he winds up. Now, very similar to this, a lot of players don't extend their hip enough. Here I'm exaggerating while bending the knee a little bit more. Again, this is where a lot of the power comes from. You should be lengthening all these muscles on the windup, and then your leg will whip forward as you plant and strike the ball. The third mistake, and maybe the biggest mistake I see, is not pushing off hard on that last step. You should be exploding through this last step, and it should be bigger than all your other steps unless you're sprinting or something. And the last mistake is not following through enough. Now, there are some scenarios where you won't have time or you do have to stop your follow through, but for the most part, you should be following through where you want the ball to go. When practicing these drills, I do think it's beneficial to film yourself so you can easily see what you're doing right or wrong. Alright, I hope these were helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.